this matter. So we urge our members, we urge leaders to be able to contend with the fact that our duty as leaders, as affiliates, is to work internally, strengthen this federation, and do not pronounce outside the parameters of the protocols we have agreed to as the federation. Well, if your intention is to build Cosatu. But if your intention is something else, then we have no control on what you say. But if your intention is to build this federation, this is what we are all about, this collective. Chair Peggy wants to add something.
No, I just want to answer two questions. Is Velinzima Vavi will be allowed to be in the building? He is in the building now. He's suspended in terms of giving leave, but in the building. Any employee of any organization, when you are suspended, there are arrangements made in terms of coming to a workplace, especially on regard to some investigation. If you want them to be free, to be fair, you'll put arrangement, and those arrangements will be communicated to the person aggrieved or put on special leave, how they have to be regulated. So there are conditions in terms of regarding to information that he may want or information that the Federation may want from him during this kind of period. It's not unique. It's what always happens during such period. On the issues of the question as to is this a smoke screen in regard to the issues raised that led to this action by the Special CC. The CC was fortunate enough that the General Secretary himself, he made a statement to the CEC in regard to these particular issues. It's not fabricated. He confirmed that he made a misjudgment from his part. He pleaded guilty. He apologized. So anybody who can come up and say, no, there's a big agenda here. There's nothing of this nature that's happened. People are just witch hunting the General Secretary. The answer is there to be seen. There has been some misconduct or alleged misconduct in terms of our procedures until proven otherwise, despite that the General Secretary has made admission publicly. We don't, in the Federation, use those public statements as a way of following this particular procedure. Want to follow a procedure, want to ensure it does not happen again, and people who go through that processes are able to know that this is a wrong action. So there's no kind of confusion among the CC delegation. Nobody raised that this thing did not happen, that this thing is correct. The General Secretary, when he recused himself from this meeting, he made a profound statement. Don't look at me as an individual and try to protect. Look to the principle of the Federation that they have to be held high at all times and they should be respected. It gives people the courage to discuss these particular issues and to push aside any other thinking and to allow this process to take its course. And we hope that people will respect and will be engaged in that particular process.
The last one. Maybe the last one, which was the first question. Did Cosatu CEC discuss the Cosatu president's suspension? No, we didn't, because it was not in our scope. SADU met in their own meeting. They took a decision that relates to SADU as an organization. So the agenda of yesterday, you see, when you convene a special meeting, you confine yourself to the agenda of that meeting, and there was only one item. So even if there was temptation, it would not have been allowed, because on the agenda there was only one item to be discussed, and it was to give a report to the Special Central Executive Committee on the matter that Cosatu has been confronted with. Yes.
Okay, one more round. Karima, Jan, and the blue shirts.
secretary and the employee, the two people that have been put on special leave, will they be allowed to have special representation in the disciplinary hearing, and what the procedures of Cosatu allow for? Like, you know, in the case of the ANC, they have to be represented by someone in good standing who's a member of the ANC. Take us through what Cosatu's procedures are regarding representation in the case of a disciplinary hearing. Are they going to be allowed to be able to call witnesses? And then, I know you don't want to speak to the specific charges, but we've had a situation where a case, a charge of rape was lodged and then withdrawn. Is the nature of that incident going to be forming part of the investigation itself into the alleged sexual misconduct? If you could just give us the scope of the nature of the investigation itself. And then this is the second instance in which the Federation has gone to external individuals, which you call independent individuals, to be the arbiters about internal matters of the Federation. Can you explain the rationale behind choosing these individuals? Is it because as NOBs you are too close to the matter? Is it because Cosatu is divided? Or is it because you want to give the affected parties the best possible chance to be heard in a way that is balanced and fair and transparent? And then also, if you could just explain the second set of procedures, which is to arise at your regular Central Committee, the Central Executive Committee in September, which relates to the question of the sale of the old building and the new buildings. Are we likely, for example, to see in the pursuit of that investigation more charges relating to the General Secretary off the back of the submissions? And if you could just explain how these two procedures speak to each other, if they do at all. And then the last question I wanted to ask was, when you spoke about the Central Executive Committee making a point about the fact that the public discourse around this matter has prejudiced the one individual, could you explain to us what exactly you mean by that? Is it the fact that her name was revealed? Is it the fact that the version of events as presented by the General Secretary has been accepted as the truth, even though there hasn't been an investigation? Can you just explain what exactly you meant by saying that her rights have been trampled upon? Thanks.
Jan Alana from Beeld newspaper. I'd just like to know whether it's correct that the NUM wasn't allowed to participate due to being not up to date with their affiliation fees. And secondly, whether NUMSA's objection, the second objection, that this is actually selective prosecution. Some of the people in the room have been accused in equally well published incidents of similar transgressions, and nothing has been done against them. Also, Cosatu's support for President Jacob Zuma during his campaign in similar transgressions. What were your response to those objections by NUMSA?
Okay.
Sorry, I just had an additional on NUMSA, on their threat to withdraw from the Federation. I know that you only had one issue on the agenda, but certainly the political circumstances under which this matter is discussed, I mean, they believe that yesterday's meeting was unnecessary, and they threatened to withdraw from the Federation. Did that discussion in any way take place, even if on the sidelines, and if so, can you explain what the nature of those discussions were?
Thank you. I'm Lebogang Siale from the Star newspaper. Part of my question has just been answered, but I want to put it to the President with due respect that he seems to be in denial of the fact that Cosatu is not a united organization, because we have seen consistently its leaders making inflammatory statements that are of divisive nature to the organization, and then he himself is not exempt from that, and the Secretary General as well. Yet he wants us to believe that the Federation is united, and that is denialism. And the divisions, of course, are of political nature, because the various leaders are torn, apart between the political lines. Yeah.
There is a full basket of questions. You will be the first one, Dlangs.
Next round.
Let me deal with the easy one, which is the last question, and hope you all were listening quite carefully. One, we are not in denial of our own challenges. What I was saying is we would want to use the space to express much on the need to work for the unity of the federation. If you follow that line, it tells you that it seeks to arrest and address issues of divisions. That's a very easy one. Well, in terms of being in denial, as a leader, you should always understand your responsibility. All the time you have an opportunity to say something as a leader, that yours is to ensure that there is unity. All the time. Even at instances where you yourself are accused or alleged to be the protagonist of those divisions, to then follow the line and respond to a question of why are you dividing Cosatu, tends to be a waste of time and waste of the opportunity you have to help the person to understand that your duty is to unite Cosatu. So you must choose to express to unite the federation. It is the task that we collectively hold here of uniting the federation. Some would be accused of fearing to speak truth to power. You have heard that story, you have written about that story. You are afraid to tell the powers that be when to get off. You even are afraid to state the policies of the federation just because you fear it will upset Mahlambandlovu or Lutuli House. Do you have to then, as president of Cosatu, try to respond to those? My leadership upbringing has taught me that that's not what I need to do. I need to say to South Africans, this federation, Cosatu, is important for the workers of this country, is important for the affiliates of this federation. It has a responsibility to campaign, to liberate, to fight against poverty, unemployment, inequalities, and that we must work hard to achieve those and discourage those who tend to be reckless at times and handle matters of the organization in a manner that seeks to divide the organization. So that's not being in denial. It's an approach to a particular situation which it is going to be critical going forward, because the CEC yesterday says it is an opportunity to begin to work to show the public that Cosatu is about the issues of the workers. It's not about issues of tensions and fights amongst leadership. It is about the issues of the workers going forward. That CEC says exactly that. And we're all tasked to execute exactly that chance. The sooner we're over this page, the better. I want be able to ask you a question, lest I am surprised here that there are leaders other than what we are discussing now who are accused of a similar situation sitting here. So I won't ask you who are those, because I will be defending them. But I know that they have never been accused of anything like that. So, but I understand the politics of smearing and wanting to create an impression about other leaders. It is dangerous to pursue such a line. It doesn't build organization. Let's focus on the real issues. I won't respond to the basket of questions. Comrades must respond.
Can I respond to the Let me respond to the question that you say NUMSA has threatened to withdraw from Cosatu. NUMSA has not said that to us. We are hearing this from you now in the press conference, and as such we can't express a view that is expressed by ourselves until NUMSA tells us that. Then we will engage with NUMSA.
Okay, I would on the question of Karima, I think I would request the Deputy General Secretary to deal with the administrative part of the processes. But on one question that Karima you asked is, will this have an effect on the current process, facilitated process, and if there is a link? Cosatu believes the two situations are completely different. They are not the same at all. That process that is a facilitated process deals with different issues altogether. This one emanated outside that process. As a result of that, a special CEC convened specifically for this issue. So there is no relationship at all. So this process cannot then have an impact on that one. But how facilitators are facilitating that process, and if on their mind they find a relationship, we may not know. So if there is any relationship in terms of their own facilitation, we will be hearing it from them. But in terms of the Central Executive Committee of the Federation, there is no relationship at all. The second one is the issue of whether NUM is in good standing. You see, it is shocking for us to learn that having convened that constitutional special Central Executive Committee of the Federation yesterday, with credentials being adopted by that committee, and out of the 19 affiliates of the Federation, only 3 were not in good standing, and NUM was not part of that 3. So it is shocking that we will hear that now NUM in that meeting was not in good standing. But also let us say, even those that were not in good standing, you may not be in good standing, but you have a right to speak. The only right that you don't have is to move a motion, second a motion, or vote. So, but the question directly, the response is NUM is in good standing. Thank you.
Can I respond to that? Sure. It's not working, so it's fine. Now I just want to respond to Karima's question that she asked, where she said, what is the stance of the NOBs in this matter? The stance of the NOBs is that in the first place we felt that we are too much involved in the surrounding area, so that's why we referred it then to an independent person. Also now, that came out of the special CEC yesterday, we also pronounced that as NOBs, and neither as the CEC comrades is going to be part of this thing. We're going to call in a special independent person to deal with this thing so that it can be a neutral stance and not saying by the end of the day that we took sides or whatever. Because also as NOBs we had insight to the report and everything, and I think it will be wrong in the eyes of the law then to be part and parcel of that process that's going forward. I just wanted to answer Karima on that.
Sure. Yeah.
It's on.
Yeah.
No, just to add on in terms, I think the Treasurer is correct, Karima, to suggested answers that we should take. It's for the best for the processes to get a chairperson that is independent, not attached, have no background to the issues, to be listening without being influenced by other processes. For an example, the outcome of the grievance processes. These two matters are separated. Disciplinary matter and the grievance processes are quite different issues. What you may say in a grievance should not be used against you in a disciplinary processes, because you may use from a different angle, arguing for a different point of view. So it can't be used. As the Treasurer is correctly saying, the office bearers have an insight of that report, have read that particular report, so they will not be independent. But you must remember, this is not the first time where, for an example, an office bearer has been exposed to this kind of an arrangement. Our former President Madisha was involved in that particular issues. The office bearers collectively advised the CEC that we need an independent chairperson so that you can be given a fair chance without some kind of influence or allegation of being influenced because you know the inside issues. On the issues regarding the CEC and the facilitated processes, the NOBs, when they convened this CEC, the question arose as to why are you not waiting for the ordinary CEC so that you can discuss the issues? In the NOB's view was that if you put together the processes, you put the issues that you are dealing with in the ordinary CEC, which deals with the facilitated processes, you are going to confuse the issues, as people are trying to do it even now, when this one is quite clear. It's a separate matter. It has to be dealt separately. It was their views that if you're able to arrest and solve these particular issues, you'll go to the facilitated processes untainted with this kind of a background. By the way, the CEC and the NOBs have said the General Secretary will be required to continue to participate in the facilitated process, because the facilitated process is a bigger challenge in the Federation. With this or without this, those challenges will remain. It has to deal with the unit and the coherence of the Federation. That process is going on, we are engaging, and we are going to continue to engage. So the special leave should not deny the General Secretary an opportunity to participate and influence this particular process. Whether issue arising from the other issues will end up being dealt with in terms of charges, we can't determine the outcome of that process, and I think we must wait until that process has concluded and has been able to deal with its work in a correct way. In these processes, there is no charges of rape in this kind of processes. We should put quite clear. That is not that was an grievance that unfortunately was withdrawn in the process, did not run its course. That is not about that particular issue, and this is not a response to that one. That people who might have raised some grievances, therefore there is a whip charge arising out of those particular issues, will encourage people to raise any kind of grievances they have without fear from any reprisal for raising those particular issues. And that's why we want people to be treated fairly in relation to those particular issues. So, in regard to your question of representation, whether it will be fair, special representation in the hearing, normally those are the issues that the chairperson of the hearing determine, whether you go like in the CCMA, people make presentation as whether they want to be represented in a particular way. in our view, normally on issues that are simple, straightforward, you don't need that kind of an arrangement. But the independent chairperson, if in his or her views, believe that these issues are complicated and the issue may need that the people involved need some kind of assistance, I think the chairperson will be able to determine, and I think the federation as a whole will engage in terms of what to do. In the Madisha case, for an example, there was no legal presentation. But the chairperson of that time agreed that you can bring a representation, but he will not participate in the processes, because once you bring legal persons, it drags on for years and years, and because they're making money out of it. Want a process that must be quick, must be fair, must be able to make a conclusion as soon as possible. That's why the period envisaged here is between now and the next CEC, because we believe, looking at the face value, that the issues are not complicated. You may be able to engage. You may come to an easy conclusion. And then indeed, I think the President answered the question of unity in the Federation. No one can say that any organization is 100% united. It is determined by whether people are able to come together and carry its program in relation to those issues. The Federation is a broad church. People who are members of this Federation, they don't agree politically on many, many issues. I mean, some of the present here are members of the PAC, not here, I'm talking about in the Federation. Some are members of the other organizations because ideologically they believe that those organizations can serve them better. But when it comes to the collective issues, the issues on the shop floor, we think all workers are united. But even on those particular issues, the tradition of Cosatu is that we debate those particular issues. And people express views. Sometimes they disagree, sometimes they agree, but always we find a common ground that make us to be able to move forward. So that is the challenge that the Federation is doing. That's why we go to the facilitated processes, because we agreed and admit that there are some weaknesses and challenges within the Federation. That's why we set up that process to build the unity and the cohesion of the Federation. So we will not deny that there and there will be differences. In fact, they play out sometimes in the media, as you are saying. One union out of many unions will accuse only one union and not talk to the others. And the report here, they said there were about 3 other unions who were not in good standing. But one may target one union. We appreciate and understand the environment we're in, that those things are going to be coming up from time to time.
Okay. There's just one question that I think, Karima, you raised it on the issue of fairness.
So you said the CC made a point about the other person's rights being trampled. I wanted to understand what you meant by that.
Okay. On that one, look, the CC, because when they made an evaluation of the incidents as they were happening, coming to the special central executive committee, was that, for an example, yourselves would also confirm that the focus has been towards the General Secretary. Some affiliates have also said, instead of dealing with the issue as it comes, or refusing to even comment on the matter because the Federation has not dealt with the issue, they felt it was appropriate for them to come to the defense of the General Secretary, but then portray the alleged victim to be a part of a political conspiracy. Now it's as if whether that issue, without it being tested anywhere, already she is being used. You see, once you begin to do that, you tramp on the rights of that alleged victim. You take away her dignity, you strip her naked, and you put political issues on processes that you're not even sure of yourself. And you taint the name and the image of that individual in defense of another one. And the CC had to reflect on it and said, but what we did as a federation, by some affiliates, it cannot be correct. And moving on and dealing with this process, Cosatu must treat both, because both are employees of the Federation. The General Secretary is an employee of the Federation because he's an official elected. This is a staff member of the Federation. The Federation cannot be seen to be biased towards the other and find the other one to be a tool being used by some people somewhere. And CEC condemned those acts and said, moving forward, as we move on this issue, getting into a process, both of them must be treated fairly, by beginning with ourselves, because the media, one suppose that your reaction and what you print is what we're telling you. So in order for you to print and run a first story, it has to be balanced from within the Federation itself. Thanks.
Right, I think it'll have to be the last round.
Yeah.
Right, yes, we promised you. Yes, and finally.
Why watch the news on SABC? We bring you news in your own language. News that affect you. Sports. We have
Catherine Drew, SABC News at the High Court in London.
Shervin Bryce-Pease, SABC News.
Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Nairobi.
We touch and change people's lives. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
A lot of people said last night as the news started breaking, they said, you know, welcome to e-tolls. E-tolls are going to come, labour brokers will never be banned, and the NDP will just continue without question. What is Cosatu's response to this? How will Vavi suspension affect your stance on policy issues, if at all? And another question, NUMSA's General Secretary, Ivan Jim, I see at about 10 o'clock there was a story of him confirming Vavi's suspension. And as I understand, the Cosatu President, Sumad Lamini, was the only one sanctioned to speak on this. How do you view that confirmation by Jim before this press conference? And the last question, if the General Secretary last night yesterday pleaded guilty and said he did it, why couldn't the CEC decide on the sanction right there and then? Why? Yeah, I mean, if he's guilty, what is still in question?
I'm Omar Mutasa from the BBC Africa Service. Mr. President, for sure, it seems to be there's a big division in Cosatu at the moment. And of course, as you said, among the 19 affiliates, there are 3 who have been against. I would like to know exactly which are those who were against the 3 which have been mentioned. And the other thing is, we understand that there are some within Cosatu who are pro-Vavi and there are some who are against Vavi. In case of tomorrow, Vavi is being fired out of Cosatu, are we likely to see a new trade union being formed for those who will side up with Vavi?
Okay. Why don't you check all at once?
Maybe. We just say there's just 2 more hands. Maybe
yeah.
quick.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Natasha from the Business Day. I have 2 questions. Firstly, President, you mentioned a meeting of the NOBs and presidents to discuss the dates or the independent facilitator. When will that meeting take place? And then secondly, NUMSA this week made some really serious allegations against you, not sort of political allegations, but allegations that you had abdicated in your duties and that you were reckless with the unity of Cosatu and expressed no confidence in you. What is your response to that? Was that raised at the meeting with you directly? And lastly, is Cosatu in fact in crisis? We've had this picture painted of, in fact, in crisis and paralyzed. What else is Cosatu doing
Justice again, EMCA. My question has sort of been asked in a way by Natasha. I wanted to ask, do you agree with the assessment that says Cosatu is imploding on your watch? And what do you say to those that are calling for a special Congress to deal with all the crises, and it's among your affiliates?
Okay, and finally,
okay, I'll ask just one because the other questions have been asked. Tielisa, SABC Television News. Are you at all concerned that you now consumed with the sex scandal instead of dealing with elections next year, national elections next year, instead of dealing with worker-related issues and focusing on helping the alliance to get the votes?
Okay, thank you all very much.
We are concerned because the Federation has got to do what it is about, coordinating Cosatu affiliates so that we run the campaigns that we are supposed to run. Yes, a campaign for the total ban of labor brokers, a campaign against the e-tolls, a campaign for a national minimum wage, a campaign for sound labor relations, better conditions of work, the protection of the most vulnerable workers in the restaurants, in the security sector, in the hotels, and everywhere in the country. That Cosatu is supposed to be continuously working to achieve better life for the workers of this country. Have we abandoned those? No. We are running those campaigns in the various areas of our country, in the various affiliates. There are challenges such as what you are raising, that by this time our focus should be on those campaigns, but also on the decisive victory of the African National Congress next year. An organization that is the ruling party, but we are in alliance with it. We have a Congress resolution to ensure that it achieves an even higher margins of victory next year. So we would automatically understand that some of our challenges would be precisely to attempt to weaken that organization. We've said it again and again. If you want to weaken that organization, ensure that we have a divided Cosatu. If you want to achieve a divided Cosatu, look for the strongest affiliate in Cosatu and start there and smash the NUM. That is why the NUM and other affiliates of Cosatu are under siege. We are alive to those realities, and we are supposed to be confronting those. Is Cosatu facing an implosion? I know that in society, people who would have prophesied and said that there shall be rain tomorrow with thunder and storm if tomorrow comes and there is no rain, thunder, nor storm, they feel that they will be scorned off as if they lied. So they would wish that there must be thunder and storm tomorrow so that their credibility of telling and foretelling is sustained all the times. I've stated this matter differently when I was responding to last question. If there are perceptions or concerns about the implosion within the federation, our focus should not be to go out to try and convince you that there shall be no implosion. Our focus is to ensure that there is no implosion, because we'll be happy when there is no implosion. So we're spending time building this federation every day. That is our task, so that there can be no such an implosion. But those who are doomsayers, who have said that there shall be an implosion, that Cosatu shall split, will repeat that and sometimes threaten to demonstrate that Cosatu is splitting, because they will be then be deemed as indeed these people can predict tomorrow, because it makes them happy that they would have predicted that there shall be a split. Our focus is to ensure that there can be no split of this federation. We are alive and aware of the attempts to split the federation. We're not focusing on them. We're focusing on the work we do to ensure that there can be no split. That is what becomes more and more critical, and to be the focus of everybody in this country who loves Cosatu. Work to ensure that Cosatu does not get into a split, which is why, as you raised the question, Sabel, whether the ANC concerned about what is happening into Cosatu, has it expressed itself lately about what is happening? The ANC engages with us all the time because it is concerned about Cosatu, and we accept that we're working with them to ensure that there can be no way that Cosatu can go a direction of a split. You may then leave those who want to continue to be seen as champions of doomsaying, that there shall be a split, to keep on repeating that Cosatu is going to a split. We're not going to be spending time trying to predict a Cosatu split. We shall work hard to ensure that Cosatu is united. I want to summarize that in that fashion.
Can I just deal with two? The simple one is, when will the next meeting of the CEC committee take place? Look, we met today, we met last night, we met this morning. The next date, we will have to look into the diaries, and those committee members will be informed, those presidents, and ourselves as national office bearers, into the next meeting. So we don't know the date yet of the next meeting of our class. And the second question that one wants to deal with is the issue of, on policy issues, ETOLs, and as a result of Comrade Zweli being put on special leave, therefore there shall be no movement. You see, the dangerous thing that people make is when Cosatu goes to its Congress, elects its leaders. We never elect short leaders, we always elect 6. That's the composition. And the General Secretary elected in that Congress becomes a spokesperson of the Federation. And people therefore assume that because he is the one that is given authority to speak on policy issues, therefore it is his issues. And should then the federation take this decision that it has taken yesterday, therefore Cosatu will not talk about Ito's labor those are not Zwelinzima Vavi's issues, are the federation issues. You have a press conference today, not because after every CEC, in order for us to have a press conference, it's as if it's an individual. So we tend to elevate individuals, and we assume that that person therefore becomes a federation. And we have always corrected this perception by the journalists, by the media houses, that Cosatu has 6 national office bearers elected democratically in its Congress. The other perception that has always been there when journalists and other people deal with issues of the federation, and some affiliates used to say Zweli was unanimously elected in a Congress without contestation. No NOB here was contested in that Congress. We were all there. None was contested in the Congress. So we tend to elevate and create a perception that Cosatu is an individual. And anything that moves to that direction, good or bad, is then having an impact in the organization without looking at the collectiveness of the leadership of the federation. Because Cosatu, it is not individuals. Cosatu, it is not these national office bearers sitting here, including Comrade Zweli, but Cosatu is a totality of its affiliates. That's the federation. So whether tomorrow we are here, all of us, or there's new faces all together, the federation has policies, and it knows how do you take those policies forward. And I guarantee you that Cosatu will never be a chihuahua. Say chihuahua is that dog that barks but never bites. It will never be, because it is guided by its own policies, irrespective of who becomes a leader thereof after the other. So I think it is important that we respond to that one, to say Cosatu is intact. Cosatu is its affiliates. Affiliates meet, take decisions, construct policies, and they know how to take those policies forward. And they will then elect leaders that will then take those policies forward. And there are 6. Thank you.
Yes,
sure.
Yeah, I just want to respond to the call for a special Congress. There is no Cosatu union in the Cosatu meeting or in the Cosatu correspondence that have requested for a special Congress. So at no time did Cosatu spend any of its time discussing for such a call. It does not exist, it has not been put forward, and we hope it will not come, because they were just coming from a special Congress.
A national Congress.
National Congress. So we're not even a year from, or we're a year now from,
we are a year now.
From the special Congress.
Almost 1 month.
On the request regarding who are the 3 union against, the point we want to make is that in a Cosatu meeting, when a decision is being taken, whether by vote, there will be those that are for and those that are against. But when a decision has been taken, the understanding in the federation is that it is a decision of the meeting. Whether you have been against at the time of the debate or not, or in favor of that position, it matters not when the decision has been taken. We will not therefore want to isolate those unions and paint them to their members and say these are the people who are against the decision of the federation, because by so doing we'll be indicating to them that it would be correct for them not to implement a decision because they hold a different view. So the Cosatu decision is that it has been a decision of all the union in Cosatu, irrespective of what the outcome. Your question in regard as to what is the possible sanction, we will not venture to that particular areas, because as you know, what we may say may goes to the public, and I think it may compromise an independent chairperson to know as to what expected sanction that he will have either to take. We hope that as the independent chairperson regard those matters, will be guided by the policies of the Federation and to say what degree is a misconduct if the person is found guilty, whether there are remorse, whether there are mitigating circumstances, and make that recommendation to the CEC to debate and take a decision forward. I think those are the issues, and the Federation has been one of the organizations that for some time, as the second deputy president has been making, that is an organization that is based and guided by its principle, not by individuals at the particular time. Of course, individuals do influence the position of the Federation as it goes to a particular time. One of the popular leader in the Federation was Comrade Bahai. If you remember how brave he was when he addressed the launching Congress rally in Durban. He said something that nobody at that time dared to say. His speeches, as you remember, every time when it was so difficult and frightening to talk about border, but in all his speeches, he would dare border and challenge him in terms of those issues. But comrades understand the question of the leadership and the question of the organizational principle. So as we stand here, comrade, in terms of our federation, there are no people or members who are pro this and pro that. They are members of the federation. At some point in time, in terms of a particular issues, you might be expressing those views better than anybody else. But those are the views of the federation, and if you deviate from them, the federation as a whole will be able to put you on the correct path and to say you are not pronouncing correctly on those positions of the federation. So we hope these messages are coming out quite clear. We're able to communicate. And of course, we hope the media will be able to put the issues as the way in which the federation has pronounced them. Of course, people are human. Sometimes journalists are saying my editor does not like these stories in this version. We are not looking only to communicate to people, but there's a bigger kind of interest, what we're trying as business to articulate, to get on. So we understand sometimes as members of the union, but we hope that your conscience will tell you that, but even if I'm distorting this thing, it is not correct. Some of you do come back and say, no, that story is not me. It's my editor and all that kind. So we appreciate, but at least there has to be some kind of honest in terms of painting the issues as we communicated to you. Thank you, President.
Yeah, just a parting shot on what became the main line in the special CEC after it had concluded its discussions. There were no victors, no losers. Cosatu must win. Thank you.
Thank you all very much, and I look forward to reading all of your reports in your program.
SABC News. We report, contextualize, and present news and current affairs honestly, fairly, and fully. We consider it a duty to provide consistent, relevant, useful, and top-quality information and analysis. Our mission is to provide credible, accurate, and interesting news programming, bringing news into everyone's homes in everyone's languages. Thank you, South Africa, for relying on SABC News for quality news output and for making us your #1 source of information. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
By only 7%.
Standard Bank also entering into some of the micro-lending business, which hasn't been traditional. Their focus over the years have been more corporate. as well as your traditional